You know, across the Western Pacific, we have just not been able to get a break over the last month and a half. We've already had 6 named storm systems, and now it looks like a 7th is poised to be named. It will be called Rolly or Goni, the international name versus the local Philippine name, if this is upgraded. It does look like Pagasa is already planning to upgrade this at least to a tropical depression. It likely is going to be named a tropical storm from JMA. First, I also do want to talk about Malave, which is still out there in the South China Sea making landfall into Vietnam. Also, by the way, I am meteorologist Robert Speta. Please do follow me on all of these social media platforms for more frequent updates. But let's talk about our storm systems. And first, of course, Malave. It rolled over the Philippines, brought widespread damage here from Catanduanes, south of Manila, across Mindoro. I mean, you guys just got raked by this because it intensified pretty rapidly just prior to landfall. The good news, we're not seeing a similar setup into Vietnam. Actually, we're seeing a bit of weakening as it begins to come on shore here. Still plenty of outflow on the southern periphery, but on the north, there is some decent wind shear continuing to act on this, and that's causing it to back off a little bit. But I know about 4 days ago, I really discounted this out as it moved out towards Vietnam. I thought the wind shear would be acting a little bit more on it, but the thing is, it drifted a little bit further towards the south. So it's not impacting northern Vietnam. It's more in central and southern areas of the country. So it's a little step away from that wind shear off towards north. So even though on satellite imagery, you can still see that interaction with the shear, that inflow is overcompensating, which is why this is still a typhoon. Actually, in that eye wall right there, we could see winds about 100 knots sustained. That is enough to cause significant damage. So yes, the rain, still a major issue here because we have had one storm after another. I mean, 6 already in the past just over a month. The ground's saturated. It can't soak up any more precipitation. You get more rain on that, it's going to cause flooding and landslides. Already dozens of deaths have been reported in the last few weeks because of flooding and landslides. This is going to add to that. On top of that, it still is carrying those damaging winds with it as it comes on shore right around Danake. I mean, we're going to be seeing just absolutely significant conditions here. So here's a track from the Joint Typhoon Warning Center, still bringing it on shore as a typhoon before it weakens out as it pushes inland towards Laos, squeezing out all of that moisture as much as 200 to 400 millimeters. I think localized as much as 500 millimeters is very well possible with this. So very serious setup here, very serious situation for our friends of Vietnam. I would like to talk about that longer, but also I do want to mention our other system. And you can see the line right here on our rainfall accumulation output from the European model. This is picking up on our next system. If this is named by the Japan Meteorological Agency, which I do highly suspect, it is going to be called Tropical Storm Goni. Look at the satellite imagery. Plenty of flow around this. We do have a trough back towards the north, but as that starts to let go of its grip, this is going to move into an environment that is much more conducive for tropical development. By the way, high pressure, there's Okinawa. High pressure is over Okinawa. I do not expect this to lift towards the north. In fact, that high pressure is going to keep our system more on a west and then southwest track towards the Philippines. Remember, these systems are like, I say it time and time again, if you've watched more than 2 of my videos, water flowing downhill. Here's a mountain. Here's our water. It's not going to flow up that mountain. It's going to churn just like that. And numerical guidance is matching up with it. Here goes the GFS, right like that. Just off towards the north, then coming down. So where this is going to go, pretty decent confidence with it at this time. Actually, the Pagasa has put out a track here already outside of the Philippine area responsibility, which I think is, I love it when they do this. It gives people more of a heads up. But they do have this coming on that westerly and then southwesterly track. So the track's pretty confident. It's the intensity that I'm concerned about. As we've seen with Malave just prior to landfall, the Philippine Sea effect is a real thing. I want to write a paper on this and just do some research and dig into just the historical case after case after case of times when storm systems get right about there and they fire up. They go from tropical storm to typhoon to strong typhoon intensity in the course of just a few hours because waters off of the coast of the Philippines here are just some of the warmest on Earth. Usually this results in just explosive intensity out of this. So I'm not saying it's going to happen in this situation, but time and time again, it has. History repeats itself. All right, so here's the numerical guidance, by the way, and I'm going to break this down just a little bit for you because I assume if you're watching this far into the video, you kind of like the science of all of this. This is the GFS, or excuse me, this is the European, this is the GFS. These are spaghetti plots. Now, spaghetti plots are important if you know what you're looking at here. Basically, each one of these numerical guidances start off with a different variable for the initialization of it. They're really good at forecasting, but they don't know exactly what the conditions are in the center of this storm. How would they? There's nobody out there launching a weather balloon, standing there recording. This is all inferred via satellite imagery. We don't have recon in the Western Pacific. So, for example, here's the point. One numerical run might say the surface temperature is 23. The other one will say 24. The other one will say 22. Very crude example there, but it's kind of what's happening. Now, due to the butterfly effect, chaos theory, each one of these numbers are slightly different. Thus, the forecast will slightly be different as well. But despite the difference in variables, you can see that the main factors, specifically this high pressure towards the north, keep this on that westerly track and more so towards southern areas of Luzon. The GFS, similar, different numerical process, different setup, but similar output coming out shore to southern Luzon. So that's when we see tight ensembles very close together like that, means we have high confidence as far as the models are concerned. Felt like explaining that a little bit to you guys. Anyways, Malave now nearing landfall in Vietnam. We have our next tropical storm likely to hit the Philippines as we go ahead into the weekend. And, because I know somebody's going to ask about this, another storm is in the long-range forecast, 200 to 240 hours out. Taiwan, Okinawa, not going to take you off the table of this one. We're going to keep a very close eye on it. But, yeah, I'll try to have another update tomorrow if I can. If not, please do follow me on all these social media platforms. I try to keep you guys posted as much as possible. Check in with your local weather agencies in Vietnam. Be sure to check in with your local warnings. The Philippines, Pagasa has been doing a great job updating on these storms. Clear example, 10 years ago, back when I first started making these videos, there was no way, and there was just no way they would put out a forecast of a tropical system before it hit the Philippine area of responsibility. It was just out of the realm of question. I mean, Haiyan, the strongest typhoon on record, was already just raking across the Western Pacific. And it wasn't until 2 days prior to landfall that Pagasa decided they were going to put out a warning because it was not in the Philippine area of responsibility. It's always been one of my biggest gripes. And I'm so happy that they're thinking ahead, thinking outside the box. It's very smart. Gives people more warnings, keeps people safe. And that's what this is all about. All right, guys, stay safe.